You're listening to Barbell Logic,
the podcast where we talk about what it means to experience strength
and how you can use simple, hard, and effective strategies in training and nutrition to improve your life.
It starts with meeting you where you are right now and finding lasting solutions.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Barbell Logic podcast. I am Matt Reynolds. I'm here with Andrew Jackson and Niki Sims. We're in my house, in my library. You can't see the 350 bottles of whiskey that's right there, but they're there. We're enjoying some scotch. We're going to go out, have a nice dinner shortly. And we addressed the topic of goals a few weeks ago. Niki, you and I did, and we talked about coming back to habits and building habits. And so we want to dive into that a little bit today about building habits. And so goals are great. You got to have them. You got to know where you're going. I think that's super important. But the process of actually getting there is really built on habits. And so how would you start to address this? I mean, where do we start from here?
Well, you already have habits, whether you like them or not. So no matter what is happening, no matter what you want to do, what you want to change, you have an existing pattern of habits. And if you are going to pursue a goal, you likely have to create new habits and get rid of some other habits.
I like that.
Andrew, you said that earlier today. I think it was James Clear who said.
Yeah, that basically your circumstance is going to be an accumulation of the sum of all of your habits in different aspects of your life. So that your financial habits are going to create your current financial situation. If you're spending more money than you have all the time, you're probably going to be in a difficult financial situation. If you're exercising regularly as a part of your daily habit in life, you're probably going to have a better fitness circumstance. So that predicting your future or creating the future that you want is often more about creating the processes, like you said, Matt, or the habits that are that sustain that outcome.
That's right. Yeah. So for example, I've thought about this before, and I've mentioned it. So you guys have known, even being with me the last couple of days, I've really cut back on the amount of alcohol I'm drinking. And so I've often thought to myself, you talk about how your physical life is like the combination or the culmination of all the habits.
Right.
Have you guys ever thought, like, I wonder what I would look like had I never had a sip of alcohol in my entire life? Like, I wonder how much leaner I would be, or or if I've never missed a workout, what would that look like? And so, and that's I guess that's true. That would be the culmination of all your habits. But the reality is that we're not always able to stick to all of those.
Yeah, what's an interesting challenge is that while the outcome is going to be a product of all of your habits, you usually can't see the result because of one instance of that habit. Because you have one glass of whiskey today
isn't going to change.
No, but
really
the fact that you've been drinking whiskey for 20 plus years,
41 years since I was 2 or 3 years old.
Right.
Mom put it in my bobble. Actually, that's not true. Except for I've heard some stories
Rub
about
it on the gums.
About Dimetap. Like when I was a little fussy as a kid,
yeah.
My mom was like, or Triaminic. Here's a little Triaminic.
Right.
Put it a little in the bottle and be like, oh, he went right to sleep. So if I die, like family services, I don't know if the statute of limitations is up on that, but I used to go to sleep with them.
Well, and it connects directly to why it's difficult, for example, to convince somebody that strength training is worthwhile.
That's right.
The first time you go into the gym, you're not going to see any change. The second time you go into the gym, you're not going to see any change. But 10 years later, your entire body has changed. The entire physiology of your skeletal system, your cardiovascular system, your muscular system, nervous system, like all of these things get rewired, retooled. But it's only after the accumulation of many, 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 many
that's right.
instances of a habit.
So this is where I think the connection between habits and goals really comes into play, because if the goal when you first start training is literally you're an absolute beginner and your goal is to squat 500 pounds. What you did on the first Monday and the first Wednesday and the first Friday really doesn't, it seems so minuscule to the ultimate goal. And that's why we like smaller, more easily achievable goals, right? So things that I can go out and get. So I've got some new clients right now at Barbell Logic, and to show them progress every single workout is really the thing that we're doing to create the habit. So it's about, hey, I want to be able to create the habit of 1, compliance, not missing any workouts, and 2, making sure we're able to add 5 pounds to every single workout. Something as simple as that. And then you tell them, if you do this, your squat's actually going to go up 60 pounds this month. And they go, wait, what? And you're like, yeah. So that's actually an achievable goal in a month, especially for a beginner. Now, it's not, my squat can't go up 60 pounds this month. Yours, like, neither one of you guys can either. But we can start to approach the goals in a way where we can start to set up the habits, and we can check off those little goals along the way. And for me, that helps lead to more sustainable habits. Instead of being like, boy, I sure would like my waist size. My waist is 44 inches right now. I sure would like my waist size to be 34 inches. But there's nothing I can do. We're going to go out to dinner tonight. There's nothing I can eat or not eat at dinner tonight or even over the next week that's really going to lead me to believe like, oh, I'm making good progress toward a 34-inch waist. But if the goal is to go from a 44-inch waist to a 43-inch waist over the next month, over the next 6 weeks, I can actually tick off that I can check that goal. And for me, that's how I start to build habits, is that I want goals placed along the way so that I know that the habits are actually becoming habits, right? That I'm actually carrying these things out.
I was thinking that sometimes an easy way to identify a new set of habits is to start with what you like, identify what you don't like. Like we've spoken about, the things that are making you uncomfortable. And that's really the symptom of the habits. And so you can start to say like, man, I really hate feeling like this. For me, I hated that I was waking up and feeling like I had to do 20 different things and I was unfocused, and I kind of peeled back my morning routine. And I was like, I realized that I was waking up and looking at Slack and Basecamp and my email and Instagram. And so I was just like all over the place first thing in the morning and not feeling like, I was immediately feeling behind and didn't know where to start. So I pinpointed a habit of, okay, well, when I wake up, I'm not going to look at those things in bed. Yeah. I can just start by maybe looking at those things when I'm making coffee or something, but it's not going to be first thing in the morning because I didn't like my morning.
Yeah.
So that's a one way to kind of peel things back to figure out how to get from where you don't like to where you like. And that I think makes it something you can feel quickly.
Yeah. I think that identity aspect is huge. Yeah, I talked about it last year at the block party, our shifting identity to being professional barbell coaches as a means of establishing different goals and then the processes that support those. And for me, an example was a couple of years ago, I was debating about whether to go on a massive bulk. Like I was seriously contemplating, like, should I go for 300-pound body?
Right.
Oh, man.
Or should I lean out? Because I was kind of floating in this in-between range where I think I probably could have lifted heavier if I had put on weight.
Sure.
Or I could lean out and, maybe feel a little bit more comfortable. So actually we were talking, Niki, and you asked me to imagine who I would be in each of those scenarios and sit in that identity basically, or like imagine being that person.
Like imagine your day.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What would my day look like? How would I feel? How would my clothes feel?
Yeah.
How would food?
Like, the workout would be awesome.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's what I said.
The other 23 hours a day would have been awful.
Exactly.
I couldn't tie my shoes.
Yeah.
My sleep apnea is going to be worse. My sleep, all that. Yes.
So it was like checking in with really who I want, what identity I wanted to have. And then that triggered a whole series of actions. That I hired Jillian after making that decision because I chose to lean out instead, but still lifted better.
That's right.
Remember, I hit all my PRs working with you, lifetime best PRs while I was.
Takes a little longer, and your body has to sort of reach homeostasis again and say, this is my new weight is now 245, not 295 anymore, like that, or whatever that is, right? So it took a little time for sure.
Yeah, but that I think is important because when you are trying to establish new habits, it's difficult because any change in any aspects of your life, or if we're trying to change anything in the business, that requires energy.
Yes.
Because you have those habits, like you said, Niki, at the beginning, you have habits even if you don't realize it. You have momentum.
That's right. You have to stop.
You don't have to think about your habits. But if you want new habits, you have to figure out, and you have to actually make effort to change your behavior. Yeah. And it takes conscious energy before it finally actually becomes an actual
stop the momentum, change the direction a little bit. And it's not often, it's not always a 180-degree change.
Right.
Sometimes even a 5-degree change, a 10-degree change requires at least a slowdown in momentum to redirect a little bit, right? And so
I have an example of that from also recent life.
yes,
So I was I'm a lady. You guys aren't. I go through these
I've
big
heard.
weight
Yep.
swings during the month. And like there was a time of the month where I was supposed to not be fluffy. And I was like, I am fluffy. And I was really not happy about that. So I again just started looking at the things that I thought I could mess around with. And one habit that I know I was doing that one bad habit that I identified was I was doing that thing where I go to my kitchen and I just eat a bunch of salted nuts. And they're so
I love
high
salty
fat.
nuts.
Salty nuts.
They're
One of my
so
favorite things.
delicious.
Putting salty nuts in your mouth.
I cannot
Many
help
times.
myself. So I wasn't going to give up my salted nuts. I knew that.
So how did you change that?
Yeah, so
Anyway,
wait a minute. So what did you? Wait a minute.
I'm telling you.
And that's the end of the
I'm telling
story. And that's why I'm fluffy today. Like, no, wait, there has to be
So
something.
I
Okay.
still kept eating them, but what I did is I measured out a serving in the morning. I put it in a cup, and then I put that cup next to the container. So whenever I opened the cabinet door, which was part of my habit, I would just eat from the one serving that I had
By the way,
portioned out for
one
the day.
serving of nuts, quarter of a cup.
Yeah, not much.
No.
Bullshit.
Oh my God.
It's
No.
infuriating
It's
when you
like-
see what a quarter of a cup of
Not
like
much.
cashews are.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's 6
that?
cashews. Like that's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But yeah. this is it.
So I was still able to keep my habit of grazing, but it was a controlled amount.
yeah, you put a limit on it.
So it was
Okay.
a small, it was like a big habit that I broke down and I
So
made
you
it
change
better.
your environment a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're all big fans. We've mentioned this
We're all
several
big
times.
fans of salted nuts.
Definitely of salty nuts. Also, the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, great book, probably the best book ever written on habits. There's another book called The Power of Habit, which actually James talks about that a lot in the book. But you were talking about identity is interesting. So he uses, I think the example in the book, one of the first examples he uses is when somebody's like a massive habit you're trying to change, like stopping smoking.
Right.
And he talks about people are like, I just want to stop smoking. I want to stop smoking. I wish I could quit smoking. And when they change their identity and they're like, no, I'm no longer I'm not a smoker.
Right.
So they consider themselves a smoker and they're trying to stop smoking. And there's actually a paradigm shift that occurs. And I think a similar thing happens in the fitness world where you decide, again, with some of these new clients that I have a couple new clients that are like complete newbies, never lifted in their whole life, never touched a barbell. And I had a conversation with one yesterday with Jillian, who he hired me for strength and Jillian for nutrition. And he had gone on a pretty serious weight cut. He actually had a bet with some buddies, like $1,000 on who could lose the most weight over a 30-day period. And so you can just imagine, like, but he wasn't training at all. He had never trained. And so the way you eat when you're just trying to lose is the maximum amount of weight versus the way you train when you change your identity and you say, I am now an athlete. I'm a strength trainer. Like, this is not just what I do, but this is who I am.
Totally.
It dramatically changes the way you eat. So you're no longer looking at food as the thing that made me fat, and now I'm just avoiding that thing so I can lose as much weight. You're eating food to fuel the training because you now identify as I'm a strength trainer. Like, I train strength, and so it's fuel. And so one of those things is as you start to think about who you want to be, and when you talked about this in goals, when you're not who you want to be and you start to question, well, why am I not that? Why am I not that person that I want to be? Or why am I not meeting these goals? And you start to identify I think that's a really important step to take. But then the next step is, so if this is who I want to be, you immediately act as if you change the mindset and that is who I am. Right. And I get it. So, maybe you're a 280-pound person with 40% body fat, and you're like, you want to do bodybuilding, and you're like, I'm a bodybuilder. And you wouldn't probably shout that from the rooftop because most people would be like, bro, you're 40% body fat, like you're not but the paradigm shift in your head is actually what matters. It's the internal monologue, the dialogue you have with yourself to say, like, I'm not the same person I was yesterday. This is who I am.
I think I said that a couple of podcasts ago. You have to lie to yourself until you believe it.
That's exactly right. That fake it till you make it is actually, Again, it's valuable as long as eventually it leads to, again, you come back to, we were talking about some of these tips that James talks about. He says, did you write this down?
I did.
What are they?
I think we can remember them collectively.
Make the habits
Simple,
make them
Attractive, obvious, and
desirable
easy.
or likable.
Desirable.
Easy. Okay, easy. So
simple was not one of them. It was easy.
Oh, it was easy.
I was close.
Okay.
There we go.
Obvious,
so we screwed it up.
attractive, simple, easy.
Okay, there we go. That's it.
Yeah.
I think
There
those
we
are the
go.
ones.
Simple and easy.
You did.
Balls.
We're gonna
now you gotta
we're
do
gonna we're gonna
Now
have to
you
edit
take your
this
fun.
out. All right.
We're getting it close.
Attractive.
Obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying.
They're satisfying.
I knew there
we
was
go,
an
which
S.
is the sort of likable thing as well, right? So the idea is as you start to change the habits. So we talked about this in the goal setting. If for me, as you guys know, I'm ultimate # neat dad. As a matter of fact, you and I have a lot of competitions on who's more neat dad, right?
I think you got me beat.
Well, I mean, you've got me, you've got the New Balance shoes and stuff too. So
Yeah.
like we're getting,
Thanks
but
to you.
I love that is true. I bought you the New Balance shoes. That's true. I do have you beat.
Yeah.
Andrew
So-
drives a Subaru.
That is true.
I
You
don't
drive
know
a
if you
Subaru.
can compete with that.
So, but in that sort of thing, like I like getting up early in the morning. We've talked about this before. And the idea when somebody is like, hey, I am not a morning person, I'm a night person. But what I want to do is I want to train in the morning. And you hate getting up in the morning, right? I don't know how sustainable it is to get up at 5 in the morning and try to train every single morning at 5 a.m. if you really, really, really are not a morning person, right? So this is why you don't see me getting on Instagram early in the morning and doing the # rise and grind, because I just naturally wake up that early, right? It's not about grinding. It's not about discipline. It's enjoyable for me to get up early, right?
Satisfying.
Now, it's satisfying for me to get up early. As a matter of fact, if it was the opposite, if I had to stay up late, if I had to train at 11 o'clock at night, I would hate that. I could do that for a short period of time. So in a situation where you absolutely hate it, I don't think you can fake it till you make it. However, if you know that it's something that is really what you want, and it's something that you really desire, and it's something that will fit your lifestyle, I think often you can do these things where when I start changing the way I eat or start changing the way I train, in the beginning, that's not very fun. It's not fun to put down the Krispy Kreme donuts. It's not fun to put down the alcohol. It's not fun to train on a consistent basis. But within a couple weeks, it is satisfying to do those things. And so you fake it for a short period of time. And then eventually the desire, you actually get the emotions follow the actions. And so I think that's really important. So when you pick that, you have to pick something that you know eventually will lead to, I'm not just going to be disciplined to do the thing. Eventually, this is going to lead to motivation to do the thing. And sometimes you don't know, right? A lot of people, when they give up smoking, they have to replace it with something else, and they find that. So you see a lot of people that take up other habits that are often just healthy habits, healthier habits than smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol or doing drugs. We've talked about people that have been addicted to fitness, addicted to CrossFit, addicted to. And those things aren't necessarily healthy, but it's better than black tar heroin. Right. And so sometimes they have to do those things. Well, I mean, it is.
It's true. Not gonna argue with that.
Right.
Is there a habit that you guys have added into your routine recently or changed or taken out?
I think I've taken any habits out. Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned the nuts, because that was one of the biggest. I mean, let's talk more about nuts, please.
Salty nuts.
When I started working on my nutrition with Jillian, one of the biggest changes that I made was that after work, I had a habit because we had nuts in these mason jars, like in giant mason jar of almonds, walnuts, different cashews, and I would come home from work and I'd have a snack. I'd grab a couple of these nuts, that nuts, grab a just
conversation.
couple, pieces of string
Nuts
cheese,
everywhere. Just nuts.
nuts flying at my mouth, flying in my face.
Oh, man.
String cheese, and then maybe a couple of beers.
Oh,
that was
man.
my
That's
snack.
a big snack. Yeah.
Probably 1,000 calories.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Easily 1,000 calories without even batting an eye. And that was just part of my routine that I didn't count as food. It didn't seem like I was even eating. It was just a habit. I just wasn't even thinking about it. So,
but it was like a third of your total caloric, what should have been your total caloric intake.
Exactly. And I would say more than half of what I did to change body type was just removing that from or replacing it with a more intentional snack, an actual snack. So that Jillian gave me instead yogurt blueberries and walnuts.
Yeah,
So
you were just eating it just now.
Yep.
You walked in, we're
Still-
getting ready
I
to do the
still do
podcast,
it.
and you're like eating this.
that's my
So-
afternoon, like in my head, that's meal 3.
Right.
You know, and it's become
that's
a habit
That's a 350 calorie meal instead of
Yeah.
a 1,000
with
calorie
25
meal.
grams of protein.
exactly right.
And so, and I've actually come to the point where I crave it.
Yeah.
I've been doing it long enough now that I know how to eyeball the portions. I look forward to it. It feels good.
Yep.
It feels better than what I used to have as a snack, and fits within my goals for who I want to be.
I have 2 fitnessy kind of worlds. I've talked a lot about really, really, really backing off the alcohol for me. The other thing that I've done is I like you. I love to make dinner. I love the process of making dinner. But the best thing about making dinner is snacking while you're making dinner, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we've changed is I've actually learned to enjoy the feeling, of being hungry while I'm making dinner. And so that I'm like, I'm really
that's
going to
cool.
enjoy dinner more. And so we'll make our little mocktails. Jillian and I have talked about this before. So we've got these cool like gin and tonic cups, and I'll make the bubbly water, and I'll put a little bit of the Fever Tree grapefruit. It's 30 calories for the whole bottle, and I'll split half one Rachel, half one. So it's 15 calories of grapefruit juice, bubbly grapefruit juice, and bubbly water, and a squeeze of lime, and it feels like I'm having a gin and tonic. And it's enough to kind of sip on while I'm making dinner. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm hungry and I want to snack on salty nuts and cheese and, and whatever. And instead I'm like, but the meal will taste so much better if I just sip on this and wait till I eat the meal. So that's number one. And the other thing for me, and we've talked about this once or twice on the podcast, is that I have really struggled with compliance of training over the last several years, like really being compliant and training 3 times a week, 4 times a week. I've got to the point where I actually really enjoy doing something every single day. Right now, that something doesn't mean training. Like I'll train 4 times a week, but even on the 3 days that I don't train, I walk around the neighborhood with my wife. I do some form of like some sort of activity, something active. I'm doing those things because I'm trying to develop the habit that at this time every day, it's the same time every morning, even on non-training days, even on days I'm not squatting and deadlifting, we still get up and we walk around the neighborhood. We still get up and we walk around the neighborhood, then we hit the hot tub, then we go and I sit out in the cold. And it's something that still is like, this is like fitness time for Matt. And some of those are just like really just sort of recovery, but it develops the habit for me.
And it's the easy.
And it's easy.
can do
Like
it.
I don't want to go out and push the prowler on
Right.
days that I don't
Yeah.
train. Like do
Do you think it would change your mindset if you made your identity that you train every day
Yes.
and
I think it
counted
would.
those as training? Because here's what I've thought
Yeah.
of this exact thing.
Yeah.
I like that mindset because when I am thinking that I'm training tomorrow, I eat different, I drink different,
For sure.
I sleep different. And I think the train every day mindset can have a really powerful effect.
I do too. And again, I think most of our audience that's listening to this, that would probably be positive wisdom for them. There are people that tend to just over exercise. And if
True.
that's you, that's not who we're talking to, right?
Yeah.
We're talking to people who struggle with compliance, struggle with, hey, if I don't have to train tomorrow, I'm going to have 2 more glasses of whiskey the night before.
Right.
Then my sleep sucks.
Right.
But instead, if the next day I'm like, well, I got to get up and I'm going to do this thing, even if it's not like heavy barbell lifting, I eat a better dinner. I drink less alcohol. I go to bed earlier. I focus on making sure my sleep routine, my sleep hygiene is right. I make sure I'm reading at night before I go to bed instead of like looking on my phone, looking at Instagram, looking at blue light.
I mean, because we always talk about the difference between exercise and training.
That's
and
right.
You're doing something today for the workout tomorrow or
That's right.
next week or next month. Maybe that's a walk.
That's right.
Maybe that doesn't mean just because you're training every day,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean you're max effort squat.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, if every day is contributing to what you're trying to accomplish, I think that can be useful. It's
Yeah.
helped me to think about it that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good way. So again, the idea here is as you're building habits, you're trying to do things that are relatively natural to your normal everyday flow. You're trying to make them as enjoyable as you can, knowing that like the habit you developed, like you enjoy the drinking alcohol, you enjoy the eating junk, you enjoy staying up late at night and binging Netflix. And so you have to make small changes at a time, and those things need to generally be enjoyable. So if I replace people that want to stay up late at night and binge Netflix, If I replace that with something else I enjoy, which for me is like going out and sitting in the hot tub with my wife and then reading a book in bed, I feel so much better when I do those things than if I stay up until 11:30 at night binging Netflix. Like I've never felt better. I don't binge Netflix and feel better. Even on, there are times when I've worked, like this will be a long week for us. We got a long week of work. You guys will leave on Friday and then I'm going to want to crash. Often on those days, I'll be like, I'm going to take off Friday. And I'm just gonna like watch documentaries, watch Netflix, and I'll feel better. And at the end of Friday, I don't feel better.
Right.
Instead, what I need to do when mission control leaves and the leadership leaves my house, if instead I walk with my wife, I go to the hot tub, I get a quick good workout in, I take a nap that afternoon. Those are the things that make me feel better for the weekend and set me up better for the next week. Not, hey, let's order DoorDash and watch Netflix tonight, right? And so sometimes again, it's that paradigm shift of like, what actually is going to make you feel better?
Yeah, I think those are the hardest habits to change is when the reward is immediate and the cost is delayed.
That's right.
And a mental trick that that James Clear talks about in the Atomic Habits is to make an effort to bring the reward of the choice into the present and push the cost into the present. Like try to actually match them. So making that choice differently gives you what you really want, which is to feel better.
That's right.
But you have to delay the expectation for when it's going to feel better.
Yeah.
And remind yourself of the cost of what that decision is actually going to feel like in the future. That for me, that was drinking beer, because having a beer at the end of the day, I actually immediately felt better and it felt like a reward. But then I would usually not feel better at the end of that. And I had to, in that moment, I had to notice that I was making that choice and change the way that I was associating, change the feeling that was associated with having a beer.
Yeah.
And over time, I started associating having a beer with not feeling good.
With not feeling good.
Right.
Yes.
That's right.
People always want to feel good.
Right.
What changes is what your definition of good is.
That's right.
Like your definition was in the moment, this will feel good.
Yeah.
But then your definition of this will feel good changes to tomorrow and to next month.
That's right.
And to next year.
Right.
So I will always rely on people wanting to feel good.
That's right. That's right.
Because we're humans. That's what we
That's
want.
right.
You know what's
But it really evolves the more that you start thinking about the future.
That's
what's
right.
crazy about some of the changes that I've made working with Jillian over the last couple of years in nutrition is that every once in a while I'll derail. I'll have, like this last weekend, I had some friends visiting from out of town and we were eating pizza, burgers, nachos. I just kind of let go for a weekend, stop thinking about it. And Monday, when I was traveling out here, felt horrible. Like everything in my body was telling me, like, what the hell are you doing?
That's right.
And I had this recognition about halfway through the day that that's actually how I was normally feeling.
That's right.
But it was so present that I thought that was just what it was like to be 38-year-old or 40-year-old Andrew. I just thought, well, this is the way it is. And then when you make some of these changes and rewire what feels good, the old habits, when they creep back in, you have immediate feedback.
That's right.
That this was not a good choice.
Yeah. I know you can relate to this. It's like when I am unhealthy, overweight, not pursuing training, like none of those things, I'm like bloated all the time.
Yeah.
I feel high blood pressure all the time. My sleep sucks all the time. My sleep apnea is worse all the time. And it becomes like the new normal.
And that's not the voluntary hardship you were talking about.
No, that's not at all. No, as a matter of fact, it's right. It's completely poorly. It's misguided entirely. When you change your definition, you talk about being like doing the things that are gratifying or feel good. When you change your definition of gratifying, it's not just about instant gratification or delaying instant gratification. It's the level of gratification that you get when you delay, right? When I have that, I still, like, twice a year, I probably eat McDonald's, just hammer McDonald's. It tastes so good when you eat McDonald's and it's hot, crispy French fries.
Those fries
I feel
are very good.
so terrible. 15 minutes later. right? Like you never feel better eating that stuff, right? And I'm not saying like, I'm not trying to make McDonald's like about, it's not morality. Like, and we've talked about this before, there's not good foods and bad foods. But it's about the gratification. It's that when I'm pursuing instant gratification, it never actually leads to like what I really want. It's this extremely short, fleeting happiness of gratification that almost immediately leads to uncomfortableness. It's not guilt. I don't necessarily feel, and I know some people deal with that. They feel guilt about eating what they ate, where instead of like, you give up the beer, you give up the whatever. It's not about like, okay, I don't get the instant sort of like dopamine hit or whatever from the beer, but the level of gratification I get at the long term is so much better. That's what turns, I think, the discipline into the motivation long term that makes this become a habit. So in the beginning, it's just about giving up a thing. And over time, it becomes more about, well, this is who I am.
Yeah.
I don't have to do this
I
anymore.
get pretty jazzed now about how I feel after I eat a huge salad for dinner.
I've noticed you're a big
I have gotten pretty into salads lately.
We bought
and I
like
feel,
8
and I get instant
giant
gratification
salads.
Now,
from
when
it.
you say salad, most people might not be picturing what you actually build.
I've sent
like it's not just like
Andrew a picture
lettuce.
of my salads, and it is. I started just eating a human-sized bowl of salad, and
Human size.
and now I just started putting it in my serving bowl, and then I just eat out of my serving bowl my salad.
But I mean, you've got like good dark green leafy.
I've got the 50-50 mix. I've got some avocado, tomatoes, cucumbers, some
Herbs.
some walnuts. Oh yeah, I do mint and cilantro and parsley, a hard-boiled egg, a bunch of chicken.
Yeah.
And then I make my own dressing, and it's just like so good. I highly recommend it. and I instantly feel good. It's like I got the nutrients that I've wanted all
My
day.
wife would fart like a plow mule for 4 hours after that. Rachel, don't make those.
Well, that would be
You have
broccoli.
to go stay in a different room.
So good.
It'd be very gassy. So no,
what
I
are some
agree.
things? So this is a little bit of a different angle at it, but are there things that you guys do as coaches that reinforce some of those concepts that we were talking about for habits to make it obvious, easy? I keep wanting to say easy, simple.
No, easy. Easy is the one that he said.
Likable,
Satisfying.
sustainable,
Satisfying.
satisfying, wonderful.
Yeah. So anyways, are there things that you
I don't
do
know. Start
as,
picking good adjectives.
as coaches to help your clients build habits?
That's a great question.
I think it's something that we've built in. Oh yeah, you were saying this in the beginning. When someone is just starting to work out, they're doing something that's, and this is what you said, Andrew, that's not obvious right away.
Yeah.
But what does become obvious is your feedback.
Yes.
And so you've joined their kind of habit change by they're doing something, but you're giving them something satisfying right away. You're giving them validation.
Yeah.
And so built into our service is 24-hour feedback. And I think that is a huge part of what will keep a client training, is because they're going to get something out of it that isn't huger biceps in the next 24 hours.
Yeah. I try to communicate the long-term gratification that they're going to experience coming up when they haven't experienced it before. So I'll talk to them a little bit about like, this is great. Your squat went up 5 pounds over the last workout, or man, look at the difference you made from the session on Monday to the session today on Wednesday. I'll give them that instant gratification piece. But then because they trust that I know, because I've coached for a couple decades, I can begin to tell them, let me tell you how awesome this is going to be in 6 weeks. Just keep doing what you're doing. You are not going to be the same person. And because they trusted me enough to hire me and trusted me as a coach, then they know that when I'm telling them this, I'm not lying to them. I'm not blowing smoke up their rear end. Like I'm actually telling them what I know they're going to experience. So a lot of times as we go into, we're changing habits and we're changing who we are. We don't really know what 6 weeks from now is going to look like. But to have a coach, to have this guide to walk you through it and say, I know what this is going to look like and feel like in 6 weeks. And let me go ahead and try to give you just a little taste of what that's going to be. To me, it helps give them both the dopamine hit of the instant gratification of the feedback for today, but also the thing to look forward to for tomorrow. So that they're like, yes, I'll be back here in 2 days and I'll be back here again on Monday. That's, to me,
I've
that's
heard
key.
multiple of your clients talk about that, actually. Like you'll tee them up and they're very keyed into, I was aiming to hit this heavy triple today. And I didn't want to do it, but Matt said it was there and I believed him. And it was, oh my God,
Yeah, I'll get it all
new
the time. And
PR.
I'll be like, we're going to go for a PR today, you know?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, I didn't expect you to program that at all.
Right.
And I said, but I've looked at what you've done over the last several weeks, and it's there for the taking. So
Right.
we're going to take it now.
Yeah.
And then they always hit it. And then like, how did you know? Like,
Right.
because I've done it for 25 years. And because you coach them long enough to see, like, I can see when you're tired. I can see when it's slow. I can see when it's there. And when it's there, we take it, right? So that's one of the things I think that's fun about being a coach. Not everybody agrees with this. Like, some people are just like, man, head down, follow the plan no matter what. But I'll get a lot of times with my clients, those PRs, that is the greatest instant gratification you can get in training, is that PR, especially the unexpected PR, right? And so when your coach who you trust says it's there today, take it today. And then they take it and they're like, like I did this with Josh Veach, like our other member of Mission Control. He's the youngest he's the earliest lifter of the four of us, right? And he was like, I've just got to deadlift a little bit today. I want your eyes on my deadlift. I just kind of want to see what, make sure that I'm doing it right. And he thought he'd work up to 275, 285. And I was like, what's your PR?
He went way beyond that today.
and he said, 325 is my all-time PR. And so we put 330 on and he pulled it. Fine. Great. And I said, we're going 350.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I can't. There's no way. I was like, Josh, look, I promise you, I am certain that you can hit 350 today. Not just hit 350 today, but you'll hit 350 with good form. You're not going to hurt yourself. You're like, what better day to hit it? We're all sitting in the room. We're going to like, and he crushed
Except for
it.
Andrew.
Everybody's sitting in the room except for Andrew, missed the text. It was like, come see Josh. But he saw it later on the video. So he was, So
I was working with my client.
And it was that same sort. Josh was like, well, that was unexpected. And you're like, yeah, but that was there. So
it was so fast.
I think as a coach, your ability to give your clients both the big dopamine hit of the instant gratification of like, you're doing, that was so awesome today, but also the promise of, if you keep this up, I can see where this is going. Don't lie to them, right? And where this is going is 4 weeks from now or 6 weeks from now, it's going to be this. And then you follow through with that. If they give you the compliance that they promised to give you, you give them the results that you promised to give them. Like, man, that's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, as you guys were talking, there were 3 that came to mind for me that are really core to our service when I think about it. The one is consistency and compliance. We have the workout count posted every time somebody completes a workout. You've completed X number of workouts, and then we also recognize when people hit certain milestones. But it's just a constant reminder of, and I have clients say it all the time. Wow, I hit my 500th workout. I've had several in the past few months hit 1,000 workouts. We have a dashboard that shows how many times they train and when they miss a workout. And so you can always go back and reference that. So I think reinforcing that compliance and that consistency habit is one. The automated PR tracking is huge. It's actually changed the way I program now.
Yeah.
Me too.
And it's a visual, satisfying, to kind of,
even for me, how about every time you start breaking down your clients' videos, you're like, look,
yeah,
especially when they hit PRs on
So
all of them, and you're like, bro, you hit PRs
you have to
on all the lists
just to get to the workout.
That's right. You're like, look
long
at
list
this.
of PRs.
Yeah.
It's so
because
fun.
the app congratulates you on all the PRs. Like, well, you hit a 3x5 PR and a 5-rep max PR.
Yes.
And then you hit this PR and like, there's
not
like
just the 1RM.
That's right.
Because what I used to track, I was very consistent about tracking 1RMs before, but now that we collect everything automated, which I couldn't possibly keep up with, I can now pull up their recent activity and even show, I love that too. Like not just showing the PR, but recent activity. If somebody caught COVID and they reset, actually just recovering from, I probably should have said that. But,
Stephen, cut that out. So we'll just cut out just beep the name. So you had a client that
recovering from getting sick, and within 6 weeks, he's back to hitting PRs.
That's right.
So you can also recognize progress from recent activity, not just the PR. The third one is with our nutrition program, we often use visual food diary. And what I'll frequently do after I see a day where I notice the behavior change is ask the client if they noticed that they felt different. And every single time, oh man, I slept better. I had more energy. I didn't feel bloated. And then if they have a bad day, I never tell them they shouldn't or don't do that. I just ask them again.
Yeah.
How'd you notice that you felt today? I felt gross, felt tired.
Totally. Awareness is I think the biggest instigator in what's going to drive habit change.
Yeah.
I agree.
And you can go back then too, and from another satisfying perspective, compare VFD day 1
Oof.
to VFD day 60.
Yeah.
Doesn't look anything
and
the
you
same.
you can visually see the habits manifest in
That's right.
the pictures.
Oh yeah.
They're more
It goes
colorful.
from
The portions are
beige
Everything's brown.
to beige
That's right.
to so much color.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's
right.
amazing.
And now anything that's beige is just fiber. It's like the only thing that's like the same color that it used to be is Mission Carb tortillas or something. You know, you're just like
Oatmeal.
and then it's
Yeah.
oatmeal or something.
Yeah.
Everything else is like fruits and vegetables and like colorful, fresh like meat, salty nuts. What? Maybe not salty. Anyway,
But that becomes a visually satisfying reward
For
trigger
sure.
Yeah.
that
For sure.
you now the brain starts to associate when they look at their plate and they see that variety of color versus if they fill out a plate and it's all one color.
That's
they're like, something's not right here.
Yeah.
They just start to intuitively change their habits.
Yeah. I love that.
Another thing that I think a good coach does is they make programming updates when they say they're going to, and like based off of like I don't want to say it's reactive, but you do have to make little tweaks based off what happens. And I think a good coach tells the client what they're going to change, and then they change it immediately. And that is a habit of a coach. Like
Yes.
that needs to be a habit. It can't be like, oh, I think we'll do this and this, and then just move on with your day and forget. Like that's like you have to make the habit of follow through.
That's right.
I think
That's
a big one.
actually completely changed the way I've been doing my feedback and my coaching lately is I will show my clients in real time, not just the technical breakdown of their workout, but in side by side, I've got their calendar up, and as I'm seeing their bar speed, as I'm seeing whatever, issues are going on for the day, I'm real time telling them what I'm going to do and changing it on the program.
Yeah.
And
So they don't just know what you're going to do, but they know why you're going to do it.
Yes.
So like, hey, we're going to go up 5 pounds here. We're only going to go up 2.5 here, or we're going to try the same weight or whatever, like because of this reason, because of what I'm seeing on the video today, it informs what you're going to do next week when you get to the same Thursday workout. And they're like, oh, now I know why coach programmed me that way. So they're learning as well as like they understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Yep. Yeah. And there's been a couple times where for whatever reason it didn't save correctly or whatever, and they'll be like, hey, it showed this number, but you on the video you told me we were going to go for a triple, so I made it a triple and bumped the weight, and I was like, nice.
Also, I've woken up in the middle of the night sometimes, but like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I made that change.
Yes, I've done that before too.
Have to go check and be like, okay, I did, or sometimes I didn't. So sorry.
So as you come back to thinking about habits, I want to come back to this thing that Niki said a couple weeks ago about goals. When you think about your goals, if it doesn't make you feel excited, if it doesn't stir something up in you, it's probably the wrong goal and it's probably not a sustainable goal. As you build those goals, not those goals that it's going to take a year or 2 years or 5 years to meet, but that you can reach in a few months, those small, incremental steps. If those goals stir up something in you that make you excited about who you are, it changes your identity of who you're trying to be or what you're trying to be, then as you build the practical habits to reach those goals, that sustainability will filter down to the habits themselves. Those habits become the thing that starts as discipline and will become motivation, because the thing that you're pursuing is a thing that really stirs affection in you, right? It's not, I'm doing a thing to make somebody else happy, or I'm doing a thing because culture taught me to be this or told me I'm supposed to, but it's something that actually like there's something that's deep in my soul that like, I want to be this, right? And so as you start to think about yourself as a different person, as like changing your identity to be the person that you want to be, to pursue that goal, then those habits follow. And I think from a practical takeaway, it's about sitting down and going like, this goal is reachable. This goal is achievable. This goal is attainable. This goal is measurable. This goal has a time, like I can hit it in 6 weeks. And then identifying very practical steps that lead to a habit to get there. And then you start to consider yourself, the paradigm shift that consider, that's already who I am. I am that, we talked about style a lot. Like I'm going to dress for who I want to be today. I'm not going to wait until I'm there to get there, right? I'm going to train the way for who I know I'm going to be in 6 months. I'm going to eat for the way that the person I want to be in 6 months. And when that stirs up affection in you, and it stirs up emotion in you, and it makes you happy to think about those things, those habits will move from discipline to motivation in a very short period of time. And so we've said this before, there is some white knuckle discipline that has to occur when you're slowing the momentum down, when you're changing the momentum and you're turning it 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 90 degrees, you're changing the direction a little bit. There's some white knuckle discipline that has to occur, but quickly, if those things stir up affection in you, joy in you, happiness in you, emotion in
Excitement to be that person.
it's exciting, then that becomes a sustainable habit that you can pursue.
You get the instant gratification.
That's exactly right. And you get both, right? So you get the instant gratification for every time you're able to do the thing.
Yeah.
And you understand that what I'm really after is this thing that's not 6 years down the road, but something that I can achieve in the next couple of months. It's actually like reachable for
right
me.
here. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned the dressing for the person you want to be, because I think that fake it till you make it is partly true. And also I think there's things that you can do that create that feeling in real time, like creating a ritual around your training is a way to embody that. It's a sort of like,
that's exactly right.
Faking it, but you're embodying that feeling in ritual.
That's right.
Whether it's the workout outfit,
that's right.
The space that you create around
the
your
pre-workout
gym,
nutrition, the whole thing, the
or your
music
song
you listen to. That's exactly right. It's all part of the ritual.
We were training today, and Matt is talking to Alexa about how to play Bleeding Me. He's like, Alexa, skip forward to 1 minute. Alexa, volume 7.
So I can get because I need the right measure.
Fine-tuned. It's amazing.
Right, but it's all part of that ritual of what we do,
So
and
good.
so and I think that's maybe this is the best way to end this is when the new habit becomes part of the ritual. That's when it's truly a habit, right? When it becomes part of the thing that is what you do, like that's part, and you would feel like you missed something because it wasn't part. Then it's become the habit, right? Then it's the habit.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to pursue. That's what we're trying to pursue, those, like, to turn that thing into something that isn't a habit to something that is. And so that's how we do habits. Man, there's a ton of, again, Atomic Habits, great book as a follow-up piece. The Power of Habit, another one that book came out a couple of years before. Both those books are excellent. Also, just finding great podcasts. James Clear has done a great job on, he's been on the Tim Ferriss podcast and the Art of Manliness podcast, all sorts of great podcasts where he's walked through these things, but they're very practical. Thomas Frank, our good friend and client of Barbell Logic, on his YouTube channel, he's got, I think, the most popular Atomic Habits video that there is on YouTube. So if you just search like Atomic Habits, Thomas Frank, there's a great video there where he does these just incredible, like, little short 6-minute, 7-minute videos. And it's just like a quick overview of the stuff that we talked about today that you can put it into
our Barbell
practice.
Logic Academy actually has a section on creating good study habits.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool.
Yeah, so CJ built that into, before you even start taking the class,
That's so
here's
brilliant.
how you can set your schedule up to support completing the course.
Completing the actual course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
And just watch out for my new book called Nuts and Salads.
That's right. Salty Nuts and Salads. Niki Sims' life. That's what it's. It's the autobiography of Niki Sims. No, it's good. Thank you for checking out another episode of the Barbell Logic podcast. This is fun because we get to do this in person.
Yep.
We'll do at least one more while you guys
try
are
to
here.
wear different outfits the next
Yeah,
week.
we're actually all going out to dinner here right after this. Hence, though, we don't just hang out and do business meetings dressed like this. We're going to go eat some steak and have some wine and enjoy a nice dinner.
Yeah.
And so thanks for listening to another episode of Barbell Logic podcast. If this has brought you value, we would love a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to your podcast. Tell a friend, share with a friend or family member. We love that. Again, you can catch us on YouTube as well. So if you're listening to this, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can see us. You actually see us on YouTube at youtube.com/c/Barbell Logic podcast, or you can just search Barbell Logic podcast on YouTube and you can check out the video. We're doing this on the iPhone 13. I've got some nice HD cameras and we're in the studio, and I was like, I'm just throwing the 13 up there because that camera's awesome. So we'll catch you next Tuesday, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.